Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. And we're going back to that horrible world known as the JRC. But before we do, the usual disclaimers. If you're unfamiliar with the Stop the Shot campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, you're going to find all the pertinent links right there in the description box. Please, in particular, take note of the article written by NeuroClastic, a small non for profit started by autistics for autistics. In it, they interviewed over 900 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so called behavior modification program. The Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read that article so much. They threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. NeuroClastic refused, so you folks know the drill. Read that article and share it on all your social media. Also included in there is NeuroClastic's public statement regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding just in case the JRC ever does actually see through with their threat. Trigger warning 1, when we discuss places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center and Agape Boarding School for Boys, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips or surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please use the headphones, all right? Trigger warning 2. This channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We use profanity on occasion and speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and they are watching this, very obviously parental supervision is something that is very much advised, all right? All right, where we left off. This is a short sentence and a rant is incoming. I did actually pre-read for once, and I'm just going to let it flow. All right? I'm just going to let it flow. One comment questions the FDA's claim of researcher bias. It notes that in some N equals 1 studies, the researcher is blinded, which eliminates the researcher's bias. For the love of God, if there is a institution on planet Earth that should never be talking about bias or conflict of interest, it's the goddamn JRC. Okay? The last people on planet Earth that should be talking about conflict of interest and bias is the JRC. All right? For God's sake, man. The JRC has been biased and touting the same party lines since the 70s. They have not buried in words or anything. It's the same arguments over and over again. But the problem is, those arguments don't hold weight anymore. In a world where data and cutting edge research is the name of the game. Okay? In a world where pharmaceuticals have advanced light years from where they were when the JRC began as the Behavioral Research Institute. It's night and day, folks. The things that can be done now with proper medication were things they couldn't have even imagined back in the 1970s when this hellscape of a school began. Okay? As far as bias goes, you, JRC, are the one pushing forward your own data. Your own data. Your ass is on the hot seat, but somehow you have privilege enough to be able to put your data in this. Does anybody else in any other court case get to do this shit? In anything of this magnitude, at least? These are the last people on planet Earth that should be ever talking about conflict of interest or bias. Okay? If the JRC had their way. We would be biased on their side and believe that a 1975 fucking clinical research paper should be given the same weight and merit as a clinical study that just came out yesterday. You want to talk about bias? The JRC does not accept any information except what they can twist into agreeing with them. Has any of them studied any of these other programs in depth? No, I don't mean toting the party line. I mean, has someone actually gone through what person centered planning is, what it looks like, how do you execute it? And then look at the data and the research results that we have from ARC, from NOVA, from Burl, from Easter Seals, Mother of God, DCO. And my personal favorite, where I have ties to because I've been in tight with Becky Blackwell for years, Judavine Center for Autism. It started out here in well, I'm not in St. Louis, but out in St. Louis, about 3 hours about that way. Okay? They don't get to talk about researcher bias. The only reason why they call it bias is because it doesn't agree with them. But here's the thing. No modern science or medicine does. Literally no one. It can't be biased at that point. When literally the entirety of the medical and scientific community reject you and your premise, that is no longer bias. That is medical consensus, led by what we know by cutting edge research, technology, and data that we have now available to us. It's not biased when all of science is against you. It means you're wrong. You're not some lit up beacon of truth, some conspiracy theory nut who thinks they're a real patriot by trying to tell us that we faked the moon landing. This is reality. Don't get me started on those guys, because I went down the rabbit hole out of curiosity once, and holy shit. Anyways, avoid that one, for the love of God. The JRC doesn't get to talk about bias because they very obviously are trying to change what that means. It's not bias with what the FDA is concluding, what these current studies are concluding goes against you. Because it's not one lone researcher with an axe to grind trying to bury the JRC. It is the entirety of the medical and scientific communities, of which there are numerous ones, that come against you. And we're not just talking come against you verbally, they come with receipts. And just because you don't like what those receipts have to reveal to you doesn't mean that the individuals who produce them are biased. The fact of the matter is, those folks and their clinical studies and their findings are held up to far, infinitely more scrutiny than the JRC ever has been. They have to jump through more hoops and holes in order to conduct a proper clinical study than the JRC ever has. They don't operate off of just trust me, bro, science. They operate off of results. Results don't care about your arguments. They don't care about your agenda. They don't care about your feelings. They care about facts. What can you prove? Okay? what can be replicated and duplicated. That's what these places operate off of. None of these individuals, these research institutes, clinics, and what have you, that are developing and producing those studies, the data, and their findings for positive behavioral reinforcement, person centered planning, all of these folks, they don't have a dog in the fight. And the majority of the time, they are just as ableist in their own way as the JRC is. A good majority of them are so backwards, it doesn't even really help anything to argue with them. They aren't on our side, nor are they on yours. But what they are trained to do that the JRC refuses to do is make determinations based off of what can be proven by the facts and evidence at hand. That's not bias, that's science. Science is saying you're wrong, JRC. The data says you're wrong. The research results, the people who have come forward with their own studies who are in these programs do not have a dog in this fight. And let me get to something else, because I need somebody to explain to me like I'm 5. Of what value is it to me, the advocates, the researchers, the clinicians, the case managers, the service providers, all of us who've been in this fight in the trenches for decades? Please explain to me what the JRC closing is in any way, shape, or form going to affect my life. There's no money in it for me. There's no influence, there's no power, there's no cushy office. It's just going to be the same old shit as it's always been. But at least I will know in my heart that one of the last bastions of institutional evil has been closed and that I was privileged and honored to play a small part in it. That's all it does. That's all it does, folks. It's not going to put food on my table. It's not going to pay rent to my landlord. It's not going to pay the doctor bill to my glasses doctor. It's all it's going to do. The JRC going the way of the dodo, as it should have long ago been done, is not beneficial to me. It's not beneficial to ARC. It's not beneficial to the research institutions, Yale, Harvard, the Ivy League schools studying this shit, Columbia. Nobody's making money off this. Okay? We are working to end it because every single cell in our body is screaming at us that this is evil and wrong. That those kids are not walking diagnoses, they're human beings who deserve better than to have to be forced to live their lives in fear because neurotypicals are so goddamn afraid of what's different that they don't care if they are traumatizing and even murdering other fellow human beings. We're going to close on that, folks. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. If you could, folks, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and please don't forget to hit the comments. I appreciate your time. As always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea do hope you have a good one. I'll see you in a few minutes as soon as I do the arm weights. It's arm day. Kill me. Bye-bye, everyone.